camps. They have built him an altar in the evening blue sunsets. I can see his righteous sentence by the dim and flaring lamps. His day is marching on. In the beauty of the lilies, Christ was born across the sea.
the 2022 Memorial Day ceremony at the Stillwater Veterans Memorial. We really appreciate you being here. It's a beautiful day. You could be anywhere, but you chose to be here, which says a lot to me. It says a lot to my fellow board members. I want to thank you for being here. You could be on a lake, but you're here honoring Americans who made America great. At this point, Sergeant First Class Girling, hoist the colors. Please rise. At this point, I would like to invite Mary Schneider up for her rendition of our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Please remain standing for the invocation.
Lord, today we honor our veterans, worthy women and men who gave their best when they were called upon to serve and protect our country. We pray that you will bless them for their unselfish service and the constant struggle to preserve our freedoms, our safety, and our country's heritage to restore the freedoms and safeties that others less fortunate do not have. Bless our veterans for their hardships that they have faced, for the sacrifices they made, and their contributions to American victories over tyranny and oppression. We respect them, we thank them, we honor them, and we ask you to bless them with peace and happiness today and to all eternity. In your name, amen.
Please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It's my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker today. Please be seated. Again, it's my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker. Captain Charles Anderson currently serves in the Minnesota National Guard as the Battalion Staff Intelligence Officer for 194 Combined Arms Battalion. He returned in February 2022 from a one-year deployment to the Middle East in support of Operation Spartan Shield, to include service in Afghanistan during the non-combatant evacuation operation from Kabul, for which he was awarded a Bronze Star. He has prior service from 1998 to 2006 as an enlisted military police officer with the United States Army, completing a combat tour in Iraq from 2003 to 2004. He's been a police officer in St. Paul since 2007 and holds the rank of commander. Captain Anderson is an active parishioner at St. Michael's Catholic Church in Stillwater. He resides in Marine on St. Croix with his wife and family, where he also serves on the city council.
Thanks, Bruce. Friends, it is the default of our culture to group Memorial Day in with other public rituals of appreciation for those that have served in our armed forces. But this day is meant to be different. The commemoration of the deaths of so many in uniform that fought in our nation's conflicts through traditional invocations of gallantry often falls short of the horrors of war, especially for those who have survived the battlefield. Platitudinous speeches from politicians speak of victory and valor, often with little recognition for the realities that they themselves have never faced. The stench of death, the smoke of guns, the taste of mortality in the arena of war. Many Americans have displayed great heroism, and U.S. forces have rarely, if ever, been defeated in individual battles. However, the strategic success and moral meanings of some of our conflicts remains contested. How then to memorialize? How then to remember? What drives our hearts to pause this day, if indeed we pause at all? What is our responsibility to the dead? The Civil War averaged 500 deaths per day, and about 2.5% of the total population of the U.S. perished in that war. Nary a family escaped the sting of loss. By comparison, it would be like losing 7 million to the same war today. Like you, I am overwhelmed when I think of confronting the grief of those that have lost comrades or family members to America's wars. Veneration of the military and the distance between the average American and those that serve imbues these deaths with an intimidating chasm of nobility, making empathy difficult and inadequate. Indeed, to say Happy Memorial Day is like telling someone at a funeral it's great to see them. But for many, it seems impossible to experience a personal acknowledgement of grief and condolence from lives that are so remote to ours. Like some of you here today that have worn the uniform, I know the dead and served with some of them. Rachel Hugo was killed in a roadside bomb. Paul Anderson by indirect fire. Leif Knutson by friendly fire. Russ Gulak by suicide. A year ago in August, while in Kabul, I experienced the weight of the 13 dead from the suicide blast at the Abbey Gate during the evacuation, as 50 pounds of explosives in a vest detonated and sent ball bearings into the crowd. I have seen war's ugliness in these and other countless ways. What is a hero? Can we honestly say that every soldier, sailor, or Marine that served from Concord until today died a hero's death? For the Greeks and Romans, a hero was a man whose feats raised him to demigod status. worthy of worship and incense? What of the countless who died with no feat other than following orders, unlucky happenstance, or the utilitarian attrition necessary to advance the front? To make them heroes runs the risk of taking away their humanity. Their voices cry to us now. We were like you, flesh and blood. Our fate was met in another way, but like us, you too will be, sooner than late. According to the ancient Roman poet Horace, dulce et decorum est pro patria mori, or it is sweet and fitting to die for your country. Is it sweet? Is it fitting? Is death ever either of those things? Its only sweetness is bitter, and life is forever more fitting than death. Horace's lie is repeated in speeches through the ages. The truth is that war is hell, and that death in defense of the state is not honorable in its own right without virtues deeper than pure allegiance to a symbol or a flag. I hail from a unit whose patrimony are the battling bastards of Bataan. Many of these men were killed or died in captivity because General MacArthur decided it would be better to sacrifice these men and stall the Japanese on the island nation for a few months in order to regroup for a longer Pacific campaign. They ran out of food, ammunition, medical supplies, parts for their tanks, no air support, no resupply, no reinforcements. Does sentiment alone on the day such as this suffice for the suffering they endured on the Bataan Death March? If you saw some of them today as they had been, languishing in those POW camps and succumbing to malnutrition and malaria, would you think to yourself, there's a hero? Or would you recoil from the sight and the smell? War would make corpses of us all if we let it. But death is a threshold. And so, the Catholic that I am, I will pray today for their eternal repose. Freedom and liberty from the violence that took their lives in exchange for the peace and love of a God who came down, who actually condescended into the very depravity of man's heart that gives us war, who took upon himself the hate and violence and transformed it into the love of a Savior, hung upon an instrument of torture for our own sake. In times of war, many ask, where is God? I know of only one answer worth considering, and it is to point to the cross. In its absence, despair and chaos is the only other choice. And so I turn from you now to address the fallen. We are the heirs of your sacrifices. We remember and cherish your service above self, the love of what you left behind that trumped your own life. You gave us the inestimable and incalculable gift of shedding your blood for our country. You did not make the policy decisions that sent you off to fight on foreign or domestic soil. Regardless of what we feel about the wisdom or lack thereof in engaging in war, we must be grateful to you. You who accepted responsibility for us, who died at least partly in our names and in our place. And us gathered here in your shadow acknowledge our responsibility for the choice to fight the wars in which your lives were lost, and for which other ranks, God forbid, will join you in the future. War can make us poignantly aware of the beauty of the world, and that death does not have the last word. And as long as you and I live in this fallen world, war will continue to be. But let us promise you this: we shall not love the bright sword for its sharpness, nor the arrow for its swiftness, nor the warrior for his glory, but love only that which is worthy of defense.
Thank you, Captain. That was unbelievable. Now we will hear some music from the Stillwater Band.
Be thou my vision, O Lord of my heart. Not the oil slowly
Should be going up there.
At this point, I'd like to invite Tom Simonette to the podium to honor 3 veterans whose pavers will allow their service to be enshrined here at the Stillwater Veterans Memorial, as well as recognize their family members and friends who are in attendance.
Last year at this time, I kind of made a comment. As you walk around our grounds and see the pavers that you notice, you'll never see a rank, nor a position, nor a title. Each individual here is a comrade in arms and has dedicated their service to the military and the country that we so love. Today we get to honor 3 families that have taken the time and bought a paver to be graced in our area. There are 3 individuals, as I mentioned, and I would like to recognize each one of them for their devotion to our country and then to this shrine, which is on the site of the old Stillwater Senior High School. The following veterans, the first is Michael Charles King, a Vietnam-era veteran. He was a U.S. Army veteran. If the King family could please rise so we can pay tribute to you. Thank you very much. The second is also a U.S. Army veteran, John W. Luth, who served back in World War I. His family made sure that he was tribute and is the Luth family here. Please stand. Thank you very much. And the last is from the U.S. Marine Corps. Leonard C. Farrington, Jr., who served during Vietnam. Could the Farrington family please stand? Their pavers are sitting over here marked with an American flag. And so the family, please take the American flag back home with you as a tribute and a thank you from the board members of the Stillwater Veterans Memorial. Also, you will notice there are flags that are on the ones with gold stars. Those are those individuals that gave the ultimate sacrifice, that have passed in the fields of battle. That Captain Anderson so graciously reminded us that it isn't all fun and frolic. There is death and the stench of death. So when you go around and you see a gold star, know that that individual paid the ultimate sacrifice. Bruce?
So I would like to invite the St. Croix Chordsmen to sing a few songs for us today.
I saw her from a distance as she walked up to the wall. Walked up to the wall. In her hand she held a Bible as the tears began to fall. She took out pen and paper as to trace her memory. She looked up to heaven, and the words she said were these. The words she said were these. She said, Lord, my boy was special, and he meant so much to me, so much to me. Though I'd love to see him just one more time, you see. All I have are the memories and the moments to recall. But Lord, could tell him he's more than a name on the wall. Say you really miss the family, being home on Christmas Day. Home on Christmas Day, he died for God and country in a place so far away. I remember just a little boy playing war since he was 3. Playing war was he, but Lord, this time I know he's not coming home to me. Coming home to me. She said, Lord, my boy was special, and he meant so much to me. Meant so much to me. Though I'd love to see him, but I know it just can't be. So I thank you for the memories and the moments to recall. But Lord, could you tell him he's more than a name on a wall? Though
I'm in the unenviable position of following Captain Anderson in terms of with my remarks. So this would be somewhat like a VAA football coach trying to top Vince Lombardi, but here we go. Again, welcome to the site. Thanks for coming on this beautiful day to celebrate those who gave us our freedom on a daily basis. I'm truly humbled to stand before you on behalf of the Memorial Board to share my thoughts on this holy day. John 15:13 tells us, God hath no greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. Today as a nation, it's our solemn duty to honor those who made the ultimate sacrifice in the defense of America. Today is for the ones who didn't make it home. On this day, we celebrate those who gave their tomorrows for our todays. They left schools and farms and factories to answer their nation's call. Today we celebrate those whose potential was never fully realized. Men like those of the 1st Minnesota Infantry Regiment at Cemetery Ridge at Gettysburg. Company B, by the way, of that unit was formed right here in Stillwater. Right where you're standing, those guys were here. Outnumbered 3 or 4 to 1, they left prepared positions, fixed bayonets, and charged Confederate forces. In a combat situation, you like to have a prepared position and you like to have elevation. They gave up both those things to plug the gap because the rebels were tearing a gap in our flank. It bought us 15 minutes, but that was enough for Union reinforcements to arrive. It turned the tide of the battle, but it came at a staggering casualty rate of 85%. We captured a rebel flag in that altercation. Virginia wants it back. They never got it back. If it was up to me, that flag would never go east of the St. Croix River. Throughout our history, American troops have fallen on hostile beaches and their aircrafts were shot out of cloudless skies. Their ships were torpedoed and settled under 2 miles of ocean water. Some fell in the company of their comrades. Some gave their last full measure in circumstances known only to God. The butcher's bill has been staggering. Almost 1.5 million Americans have died defending this nation throughout our history. Somehow the phrase "thank you" seems woefully inadequate. They fell in places with familiar names like Lexington and Antietam, but their deaths also gave us a grim introduction to places alien to most Americans. Places like Belleau Wood. 25 years later, Saipan, Peleliu, Guadalcanal, Bastogne, Tarawa, Anzio, and Normandy entered our vocabulary. We learned about the level of human endurance at the Chosin Reservoir. We learned about fighting an unpopular war in places like Khe Sanh, Hue, and Saigon. More recently, when the enemy brought the battle to our shores, we learned hard lessons in places like the Korengal Valley, Basra, Mosul, and Ramadi. Whether they were Revolutionary War Minutemen or modern-day Navy SEALs, the common denominator is their sacrifice. The bulk of them never lived long enough to grow gray hair. They ran toward the sounds of gunfire, not away from it. They trained together, they fought together, and all too often they died together. I knew a Marine officer in the 1980s who explained to us the significance of the American flag. He had been an NCO in Vietnam, had gone back and become an officer. He was what's in the military is known as a Mustang. He told us that the white stripes on the American flag symbolized freedom. The alternating red stripes stood for the blood that we as a nation needed to shed to periodically guarantee that freedom. The blue field containing stars symbolized a new constellation in the universe, a nation built by and sustained by ordinary people doing extraordinary things. That's why Friday nights over here at Pony Stadium, I get emotional when I hear the national anthem. It's a debt I can never hope to repay. The best way we can honor the fallen is to live a life worthy of their sacrifice. It's been said that a society doesn't achieve greatness until its citizens are willing to plant trees whose shades their citizens will never enjoy. The popular phrase today is pay it forward. Volunteer your time to a charity whose mission speaks to you. Mentor a kid, coach a youth athletic team, take time to visit the elderly, help out in an animal shelter. Whatever your passion is, act upon it. It's frankly the least we can do. Those who we honor today did not fall in vain. Their sacrifices will never be forgotten. Live your life in a way that validates their sacrifice. Earn the gift they bequeathed to us. We owe them that. Thank you. Sergeant First Class Girling is going to raise the flag to its full height at this point because it's noon. Please rise. Hopefully you appreciated the flyover from our friends from Aero Investment and their T6s, which is a World War II training plane, obviously well made. At this point, I'd like to invite Tom Simonette up for the laying of the wreaths.
The individuals that we have assigned to lay the wreaths could please come forward. Okay. For the U.S. Army, laying a wreath is David Luth. David? Laying the wreath for the U.S. Marines is Bruce Brevitz, our MC. Laying a wreath for the United States Navy, Sandy Regal, in honor of her father. Laying a wreath in honor of the United States Air Force is Beth Vogel. To honor the U.S. Coast Guard, Michael Murray, a U.S. Coast Guard member, is laying a wreath. Laying a wreath for the United States Merchant Marines, Joel Lachetta. And to honor those POWs and MIAs who we will never forget, laying the wreath is a Lieutenant Colonel Justin Bradshaw from the Minnesota Army National Guard. These individuals paid the ultimate sacrifice that served in the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, and also the Merchant Marines. And like I mentioned about the POWs, let us never forget that there are so many unaccounted for. I asked the Stillwater Band to play a song. Mr. Lindsay,
Please feel free
Please
to
be
join
seated.
us on the chorus.
Thank you. I also wanted to let everybody know, I don't know if you saw in all the multiple passes, one of those passes was what's called the missing man formation, which symbolizes those who didn't come back. Very appropriate for today. Because we've had to juggle some things time-wise, I believe we have one more song from the Stillwater Band, and I would ask when they are done if Mr. Lindsay could please have the seniors stand so that we could recognize them. Please remain standing. Please give a round of applause for our Stillwater seniors who made this event possible. This is just one of those things that just makes this much better and makes Stillwater such a great place to live. Tom and I were sitting here a few minutes ago, and a couple of small kids were running through the spire and just having a great time. And there was probably a time in my life I would have been horrified, but having had 2 young kids, but now not only do I realize what it's like to have 2 young kids, but I understand the whole purpose of something like this is to allow kids to run through something like this. So it's thank you. That's one of those unscripted things that we probably couldn't have done if we had tried. But thank you so much for coming out. So much work goes into this, and it's not just Memorial Day, Labor Day. You know, everybody on the big holidays, 4th of July, they want to come out. But we're here pretty much every week, and we do it because it's a labor of love. I'm out here when it's below 0, blowing snow, and I'll have ice in my mustache. And I've seen some of our people planting, and they go so far above and beyond. So I want to thank, you know, we already talked about the Stillwater Music Department, the St. Croix Chordsmen. Thank you. We want to thank Johnny's TV for the public address system. Valley Access Television for filming. I spoke about really kind of some of the hardest work down here is done by Karen Miller, the landscaping. Look around at some of the flowers here, and we're very lucky to have her. It goes without saying, Mary Schneider, I think angels have fist fights to compare voices because she has a beautiful voice. We want to thank 23-0 for the new service flags. We want to thank Culver's, Kowalski's, and Dunn Brothers for the refreshments. And the last time I knew, we still had a lot of ice cream and a lot of cookies left, and I do not need to take that home, so please run your kids through there. At this point, I'd like to invite Tom Simonette up for the benediction.
Before we start benediction, each year, starting last year, we worked with the Stillwater area schools, and I've asked Dennis Lindsay to select 2 of his band members, 2 seniors, to do the honors of what I refer to as Echo Taps. It was a simple song written during the Civil War by Butterfield, who wanted to make sure that he gave tribute to those who had fallen, and it was used in a funeral. So at this time, if the 2 seniors could start Echo Taps. Words came along with taps. The day is done, gone the sun, from the lakes, from the hills, from the sky. All is well, safely rest, God is nigh. Bruce?
I want to thank everyone again for coming out. Please drive home safely. At this point, Sergeant First Class Girling, retire the colors. This concludes our event. Everyone, please drive safely.
She took out pen and paper as to trace her memory. Trace her memory. She looked up to heaven, and the words she said were these. The words she said were these. She said, Lord, my boy was special.